It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, really for a long time now, if you think about it. The very, very distinguished and respected President of China. And we will be having some discussions. I think we've already agreed to a lot of things, and we'll agree to some more right now. But President Xi is a great leader of a great country, and I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time. And it's an honor to have you with us.
Donald Trump begins his first face-to-face summit in 6 years with Xi Jinping.
It is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. And it feels very warm seeing you again because it's been many years. And our joint guidance, China's relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other. And it is normal for the two leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations. I always believe that China's development goes hand in hand with your vision to make America great again. Our two countries are fully able to help each other succeed and prosper together. Over the years, I have stated in public many times that China and the United States should be partners and friends.
A 12 out of 10, an amazing meeting, says Donald Trump. He announced a slashing of China's overall tariff to 47%, lower than that of India and Canada. But do the deals, which haven't been officially released in statements, just bring back the status quo from May this year? And after weeks of speculation, why did Taiwan simply not come up, according to Trump? Furthermore, moments before the summit, Trump announces on Truth Social that the US would resume nuclear testing. Is this directed at Beijing? Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Ian Kavat. To discuss all this and more, we have Andrew Kam, National University of Malaysia Institute of International Studies Principal Fellow, and also Myung University Taiwan Fellowship Visiting Scholar. We also have Mathieu Duchatel, Institut Montaigne Resident Senior Fellow and Director of International Studies, and Alexander Huang, Council on Strategic and Wargaming Studies Chair, and Kuomintang Department of International Affairs Director. A very warm welcome to all of you on the show, and first time for Andrew. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, leaders of the world's two most powerful countries, met for the first time in Trump 2.0 on Thursday in a summit that lasted 100 minutes.
I thought it was an amazing meeting. He's a great leader of a very powerful, very strong country, China. And what can I say? We have, it was an outstanding group of decisions, I think, that was made. A lot of decisions were made, too. There wasn't too much left out there.
Alex, what was your assessment of this meeting?
I think for both Xi Jinping and Donald Trump, probably they have determined to send a positive signal, not only to their supporters at home, but also to the countries concerned. They wanted to make a progress in the U.S.-China relationship. They do not want to bring thorny issues or the zero-sum issues into this meeting. It lasts for only 1 hour and 40 minutes, and before their meeting, the final round in Malaysia had reached certain decisions on both sides to at least put the conflict or put the argument on hold and giving a new index and standard yardstick to measure for the future. So for me, it's a tentative agreement that both sides should not go to beyond the confrontation. they need to hold the line for the time being.
So more of a sort of pause on the trade war for you.
Right. I think they do not want to seek a full-blown trade war or tariff war at this juncture, as China just completed its fourth plenum and U.S. midterm election is coming up.
Okay. Andrew, this is from the New York Times, The Art of Letting Trump Claim a Win While Walking Away Stronger. Do you agree with that, or do you agree more with Alex?
I agree with Alex, and as well, I think, this is not only a win-win, it's a win-win-win. It's a win for America, win for China, and also win for all the partner countries, because it somewhat stabilizes the sentiment that is ongoing and
But what does the US get that they didn't have before, say like at the beginning of the year? I mean, the soybean purchases, 12 million metric tons or 25 for the next few years. That was only coming close to what it was before.
I think if we have to look into it in terms of the low-hanging fruits, the gains, visually, it shows that Trump has understood the problems of whatever it is in America, and now he is there being the person to solve all these problems. So visually it's a win for Trump and also for China as well, because now China sits at the same table with America and able to say no and somewhat discuss key issues together at the same level. So I think it is a win-win in that sense, and for America, it shows that Trump is now the problem solver in some sense. Yeah.
Right. Mathieu, why is China getting a lower overall tariff than India and Canada?
Well, I think that this meeting is mainly a truce. It's a temporary truce for both sides. No joint statement. Tensions can escalate again. I think that mainly what Donald Trump and Xi Jinping have signaled is a willingness not to escalate further. To me, the key element is how they approach escalation. Both sides during 2025 have signaled repeatedly that they were willing to escalate. Now China's overall tariff gets back to 47%. As you said, it's lower than Canada. So it means that the US is not completely closing its door to imports of Chinese products.
Okay. I want to ask you on this point. So the FT said that China emerged from these talks as the US's peer rival. So it appears to be saying that it's now official. Is it true, according to Xi Jinping's speech there? He says, I always believe that China's development should go hand in hand with your vision, Trump's vision, to make America great again. Can both sides benefit from each other, or is this a rivalry where one wants to beat the other?
It's definitely a rivalry, and there are some tactical adjustments to the rivalry. I think what we have seen from China in 2025 is clearly an intention to manage this rivalry, but to win in the end. I don't detect, something absolutely genuine coming from the Chinese leadership regarding building, common prosperity with the United States towards the future.
If you had to choose a winner out of this meeting, who would it be?
I don't think there are clear wins. I don't think there are clear gains. I think it's about managing strategic competition and avoiding escalation.
Very careful responses from everybody. Alex, why did Trump order the resumption of nuclear testing just before that summit with Xi? Was it aimed at China? And also, what do you expect that testing to be?
I don't know whether it's a coincidence of a timing that right before the meeting with Xi Jinping.
You don't think it was?
But it is definitely a political messaging, not only to China, but also to Russia. Because there not only political messaging, in addition to that, there are technical and scientific requirement. Because the United States intercontinental ballistic missiles had been in the silos for a long, long time. Many of their nuclear devices had been so-called in service for a long, long time. Maintenance has been a tremendous pressure for the Department of Defense or War to continue make the United States nuclear weapons viable and functional. So not only through computer simulation, I think for the advancement, given the increase of the warheads by China and given the recent Russian threat to put a higher alert on their nuclear systems. I think it's understandable that the United States think that they need to go beyond the computer simulation and trying to do some so-called modernization of their nuclear arsenals.
So you do believe that this means explosives testing, nuclear explosives testing?
We don't see anything concrete yet, but it seems to suggest, especially by Vice President J.D. Vance, that the United States should do so.
Right, okay. Andrew, finally on this section, China going into this has the huge leverage of rare earths because of its monopoly on that and magnets and the processing of these minerals. But does the US still have the leverage of its economy? And therefore that is what China needed to get, the lowering of that tariff so that it can export into the US?
I think we have to look into it as an entire value chain because it's not just rare earth for processing and also what are the downstream industries that actually benefited from it.
Is China's economy actually much weaker than it makes out?
There are some challenges at the moment in the sense that, of course, if we say weaker in the terms of economic growth, the growth numbers the growth numbers are actually higher, meaning that World Bank has actually adjusted it from 4% to 4.8%. I think we have to look into it as a huge value chain instead of just China hold one cut and then the other.
Okay. Now, after weeks of media speculation about how Xi Jinping may exploit Trump's propensity for deal-making and striking grand bargains to get the US to abandon Taiwan, what emerged was an entirely different outcome. Watch.
What about the Taiwan issue, sir?
It never came up. Taiwan never came up. It's not discussed, actually.
What else didn't come up that you thought might come up? You had mentioned you didn't get to everything.
Mathieu, so if Xi Jinping made no demands on Taiwan, as expected that he would do, what is Beijing's strategy?
Well, there's been a lot of preparatory work by Chinese diplomacy throughout 2025. And we know, actually, from US sources, not from Chinese sources, that China was aiming at a presidential statement, not in writing, but maybe to the press, mentioning the US opposition to Taiwan independence, or even better, we heard from US sources this year, a statement regarding peaceful reunification being a sort of outcome for cross-strait relations. We knew that this was China's goal, and I think that this is still going to be China's goal in the years ahead towards the Trump administration. But we've seen in recent months tremendous, opposition from various circles in the United States to this idea that there would be a presidential language on Taiwan in the context of the summit, most recently by Marco Rubio himself. So I think that this part of the US establishment has won the battle so far.
Alex, were you surprised that Taiwan wasn't mentioned? I mean, given the big push that's been in the Chinese state media in terms of articles about unification.
Yeah, I have to say that I was surprised because I always believed that the Taiwan issue would not be left out in senior meetings.
So certainly in every other Biden summit, it was raised.
I think it's an agreement between the US side and the Chinese side that on this specific meeting in Busan, that they will not touch on the issue that unresolvable and may create friction or road bumps to other trade negotiated. I would say Taiwan is still a very critical and relevant issue in US-China relationship, but it's it was not the priority yesterday.
Okay. And Andrew, in terms of Taiwan's trade deal with the US, nothing's been finalized yet. What are the sticking points?
Taiwan wants lower tariff, and to lower that, I think U.S. wants Taiwan to actually invest or commit more, and also I don't think Taiwan want to enter a trade or industrial agreement that is burdensome or one-sided as well, and being forced to transfer technology to location in U.S. And the second part will be, I think, chips production demands. I think U.S. has furthered the 50-50, like you say, the split production deal.
Do you understand that to be 50-50 on the chips that go into the U.S. market? So only those for U.S. consumption or for global consumption?
I think it will start with the U.S. consumption first, and then try to expand it into the global consumption. It is more about a dominance, and also trying to get hold of this technology, specifically for the U.S. themselves. And I think Taiwan has also publicly rejected any commitment of the 50-50 split, and Taiwan worries that it will bring any technology disruption. And also, I think if we take cues from South Korea, and I think that means Taiwan could be asked to increase the high-tech investment in the United States. So I think that is what will be expected from Taiwan.
Okay. Now, earlier in the week, Trump met Japan's new leader, Takaichi Sanae, for the first time before heading to South Korea for the Xi summit. The rapport between the two treaty ally leaders was clear. Watch as they address U.S. troops on the USS George Washington at the U.S. military base of Yokosuka.
This woman, that's right. This woman is a winner. So, we've become very close friends all of a sudden, because their stock market today and our stock market today hit an all-time high. That means we're doing something right. But the cherished alliance between the United States and Japan is one of the most remarkable relationships in the entire world. Really, there's never been anything like it. Born out of the ashes of a terrible war, our bond has grown over 8 decades into the beautiful friendship that we have. It's a foundation of peace and security in the Pacific. You see it? So on behalf of all American sailors stationed in this beautiful country, let's hear it for our allies and the Japanese self-defense forces and all of the Japanese people that we love and respect. And I have such respect for Japan and the country. And now I have a really great respect for the new and incredible Prime Minister. And I have to say this, the first female Prime Minister in the history of Japan.
How do you think Japan will be taking in the summit between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump? I mean, would they, Takaichi, she's Shinzo Abe's protege, conservative nationalist, pro-Taiwan, anti-China. Would she see security concerns in a very warm relationship between Trump and Xi?
Well, indeed, the meeting was extremely warm. Indeed, there are worries in Japan regarding the trajectory of the China policy of the United States. But I don't think the signals sent by the Busan summit are that bad for Japan. There's one thing that I think deserves attention. China indeed has announced in Busan that export control on critical minerals would be suspended for a year. That sends a good signal to foreign companies trying to access those critical minerals. But at the same time, a lot is going on in the US, in Japan, in Europe, in the G7 format, actually. There will be an announcement really soon regarding an alliance to produce, process, and also create a market for critical minerals. So I think that the US and Japan, together with other allies, have a trajectory to decrease dependence on China on the very precise element that has created huge leverage for China in its relationship with the United States. So US-Japan alliance, very strong and on a very positive trajectory. And on the whole economic security agenda, I think what is already progressing in terms of deeper cooperation will deepen further in the coming year.
Alex, there have been reports about this region being worried about Trump going soft on Xi. I mean, Matthew's offered a different analysis there. Maybe it's not so simple or black and white as that. But it's interesting, though, isn't it? Because for years, Republicans attacked the Biden administration for going soft, for not trying to win the competition, but to manage the competition. In your view, is that gap narrowing? Or is that, again, too simplistic?
I think both Beijing and Washington are doing hard to manage the competition because this competition is a long-term competition.
So you do think that Trump now is taking the same approach as Biden?
Neither side can win in 4 or 5 years or in a specific term of a leader. So I think beyond the wording or narrative, I think they try to manage the competition as well. I mean, don't forget that the U.S. got elections and China got, party Congress coming.
Right.
So they need to manage that.
Do you actually agree with Alex?
I agree. I would use the term managing escalation risks because escalation would be detrimental to all parties and because China has signaled that it was ready to escalate. And that's the only state in the world that has actually taken the decision to go to escalation. So it worked to some extent, but escalation is not in China's favor either. So I would tend to think that this is where the two sides agree at the moment.
Andrew, but when it comes to the Japan-US trade relationship, is it all that rosy? I mean, there are pressures from Japanese automakers, which are a huge part of the Japanese economy. Trump's also demanding market access. Can Takaichi continue to protect these Japanese firms, farmers, whilst also, essentially giving Trump what he wants?
I think Japan's growth over the years has been very modest. And it is really in need of a push as such of all the news that, all the investment that Trump has promised. Japan has issues, structural issues within the country in terms of, domestic consumption, aging population, productivity, they have a lot of domestic issue. Trump's visit, may somewhat revitalize that. There is always this thing about, whether it is a realized investment or just a potential investment. And also the issues of, whether the discussion was actually a framework or, when it comes to the execution part, there are a lot of challenges as well. So anyway, I think Takaichi takes good news. Any good news is a good news, in my opinion.
And just in terms of Trump's foreign policy, he was actually accused of going soft on Putin. Now that's changed. He's gone sour on Putin. He was also accused of going soft on Netanyahu until he switched, and then he went hard on Netanyahu. And then now we have this possible peace deal in the Middle East. In your opinion, can Trump's China policy work? Or does it require Trump to go hard on China?
I think, number one, we all know that there will be a Trump trip to China
in April,
in next year, and so we are just at the very beginning of a long, big show. I think my take is that Donald Trump wanted to show Xi Jinping a goodwill, a good faith. In the very beginning, and there are target dates to fulfill with all these negotiated items, and the time will be up by then, and Trump is relatively, switching or unpredictable. So I think maybe 2026, Trump will go harder as they manage the overall bilateral relationship, including the Taiwan issue.
It seems also rosy between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump at the moment. But in Trump 1.0, he did go sour on Xi Jinping during COVID. Do you see what sort of conditions this time round could also flick that switch?
Yeah, when you look at the trajectory of the first Trump administration, it's quite remarkable. And the most remarkable part is the fact that gradually, and especially towards Japan and towards the European Union, the first Trump administration decided that there was a need for a joint approach on China, especially on trade and economic security issue, meaning how to address technology transfers to China, but also how to address China's excess industrial capacity and, in fact, China's state capitalism. We may be going towards that direction, but it's very unclear because there's a lot of contest within the United States regarding China policy. There is currently no common approach structurally, or there's no strategy in the US to work with Europe, Japan, and other states in East Asia to address the issues created by Chinese economy.
And just on the Taiwan issue, Donald Trump has said before that Xi Jinping promised him he would not invade Taiwan on his watch. Does this simply invite invasion after 2028?
There are too many factors to take into account to predict what China's Taiwan policy could be. Of course, the US-China relationship is absolutely central, but there are also domestic politics in China. I think that what we have now is a phase in China's Taiwan policy that goes towards the next Party Congress. So there is apparently no intention to escalate in 2026. There may be new frictions, there may be new elements of coercion, but I think it's very hard to predict anything beyond 2027.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap it up there. Thank you so much to my guests, Andrew Cam and Mathieu Duchâtel, for joining Taiwan Talks today. If you liked our show, please search for us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching the show today. Stay safe and see you next time.